Picture this. It's your 14th birthday. You graduated from school, and it's summer vacation. You decide to explore the city. You find a member of the cuttlefish family. You walk up to them, and they kidnap, recruit you to the Squidbeak Splatoon. As you go through your first couple missions, you're kinda scared as you have little splat experience, if any at all. But after completing a couple missions with no problem, and even taking down a super weapon or two, you feel invincible. Until you go through one mission and you hear this very unique tune. Octolings. An incredible species they are. No, not you. Octolings are one of the most iconic aspects of Splatoon, more than you even think they are. If you were to put an Octoling and an Inkling right next to each other and showed it to a non-Splatoon player, they probably wouldn't know the difference. But I could argue that Octolings are probably more iconic than Inklings, design-wise anyway. But this video is not talking about design. This video is going to talk about why Octolings are not only great enemies, but also how Octolings are probably the best enemies in the series. Bold claim, I know. But I can prove it to you. How can I prove it? Here's how. It's a dangerous road, a path no Splatoon content creator would ever take, a line they would never cross, a journey they will never— I'm gonna compare Splatoon to another shooter. Again, it's kinda what I do. Halo is an iconic series. We know this. Well, we used to. Halo, what the fuck are you doing? What happened? One of the most iconic things in the Halo franchise are the enemies. Even if you don't play Halo or know anything about it, you've most likely seen these enemies before, and you probably know how they behave even. But what if I told you that the enemies in Splatoon are very similar to the enemies in Halo? Now, in most Halo games, there are three basic enemies you'll normally come across, and those are the grunts, the jackals, and the elites. Grunts are pretty much cannon fodder, and they don't really do much besides occasionally kill you with a random grenade throw, or just say dumb shit that becomes meme material. Jackals are also cannon fodder, but they're probably a little bit more difficult to kill because they have some weird mechanic that prevents you from killing them so easily. Octotroopers are basically just cannon fodder who don't really do anything besides basically dying. Octocoppers are basically cannon fodder, but they can fly, making them a little bit more difficult to kill as you kind of have to look up and shoot them. But the third enemy in Halo I was talking about are the elites. And these guys don't mess around. Anything you can do, they can do. They're just as strong as you, they have shields like how you do, and many, many more. And Splatoon is the exact same deal. You have Octolings, enemies who can do literally every single thing that you can do. And because of that aspect, that's why encounters with them are so unique, with extremely satisfying combat. Now, before these enemies were introduced, you probably wasn't even thinking about how difficult the game is. Before Octolings were introduced, every enemy you probably came up with before this point, you probably didn't really think about how to take them down. All you did was kill them and move on. Now, with Octolings, you can do that, but it's not always that easy. Octolings do one thing that 90% of most Splatoon enemies don't even do, and that is make the player adapt. Octolings are easy to splat, sure, but just like how you can rush them down, hide away from them when injured, sneak towards them, and use extra equipment like bombs and specials, they can do all of that and more. Most enemies don't really have a way to force the agent to adapt. Octo Troopers die so fast and can't really move, flying enemies can be avoided entirely, and all other enemies are basically used as a hazard or an obstacle. The only other time that other enemies will make the player adapt is if the level is based entirely around them. And while you could argue that Octolings do have levels based around them, they're sometimes in places and in areas they don't need to be, but are there to add to the level, and still force the player to adapt to what the game needs them to do. Octolings have always given the agent a sense of urgency, but also a sense of caution. As in the later games, Splatoon 2 and onward, the player is given armor, which makes the game forgiving as you can no longer get insta-killed by them, but in turn, they learn new weapons and can even use specials on you, all at once. Octolings normally tend to outnumber the player. Well, unless you're playing Splatoon 2, where Octolings will literally disconnect if more than one is on screen. I'm not joking. Why was this a thing, Nintendo? Octolings are challenging enemies, but they're not unfair when placed correctly. Get a load of this guy. This guy never played Girl Power or After All Turn. I said when placed correctly. Not only are Octolings actually threatening, but they also look and sound threatening. Well, at least the Splatoon 2/Octo expansions are, because the Splatoon 1 Octolings look clunky, it's mainly the goggles. And while the Splatoon 3 ones are the best looking ones in my opinion, they don't look nearly as threatening because of their boots and goggles. I know I spent this entire video talking about how great Octolings are, but sometimes their AI is just really stupid, man. Like, look at this shit. I'm kinda disappointed because Octolings do not appear often outside of Octo expansion. They appear in only 4 levels in Splatoon 1 and 2, but in Splatoon 3, they only appear in 4 levels at the very end of the game. And one of those levels is part of the rocket sequence, and then the other level is After Alterna. But most people wouldn't even know about After Alterna anyway, unless you completed the game anyway. So I'm really not counting those. So Octolings really only have 2 levels to themselves in Splatoon 3. Which especially sucks when you realize how hyped Octolings were in Splatoon 3. When the single player campaign dropped, Octolings weren't shown, and this gave the community many ideas of how they could turn out and look like, and there were so many concepts and many people were excited of what they could look like, and then once they finally dropped, they're only in 2 levels. I will say this, in Splatoon 3, anytime Octolings were in a level, they were perfectly used. My favorite example is the level Bet You Missed Us, where you have to get to the end that is right in front of you, but in order to do that you have to kill every Octoling on screen. There's a problem though. The entire level is foggy, so can the agent use all their skills so they know how to defend themselves and fight against Octolings without having the ability to see and get to the end in time? Wait, the level's not timed. Anyway, you get the point. Well, I would be asking this if the fog was, actually foggy, but no, the fog is kind of a joke. Either way, I'm a huge fan of the concept, and I wish Nintendo does levels like this more often. Also, did you know that an Octoling can complete a level for you in Splatoon 1? All you have to do is go to Octoling Invasion, make your way up to the Grady Bridge, pick up the Inkzuka, jump and shoot at the Zapfish before triggering the final checkpoint, then finally cross the checkpoint, as the new Octoling spawning in will touch the Zapfish and will complete the level for you. I don't know why this happens, but I also don't know where to put this in the video, so yeah, it exists. So, after everything I've showed you, and after everything I've said, if you still don't believe me when I say that Octos are the best enemies in the game, will this change your mind?
Welcome to Dark Souls.
From that moment on, Splatoon, as we know it, changed forever. As a community, as a game, and as a world. A good chunk of people watching this video probably didn't even know and or didn't even play Splatoon before Octo expansion. Octolings are so iconic in the Splatoon community that several content creators and other important people in the community became who they were because of them or something inspiring them around it. Well, that's all I have for today. All I just wanted to say is how Octolings are not only tough and fun to fight, but they're also extremely influential in the world of Splatoon we have today. A lot of things in this community we wouldn't have without them. Anyways, my name's O.C.C.B. Have a good one, and drink some water.